One of the biggest changes happened in the late 1990s, when a group of golf courses opened that completely changed how people think about building golf courses. Just like in art, where certain moments change how everything looks and feels, golf course design has shaped the history of golf in big ways. Before this big change, most golf courses looked very polished and controlled. Think of famous places like Augusta National, where everything is perfectly manicured and tidy. Designers often shape the land a lot to make it look just right, but this sometimes made the courses feel a bit artificial. Golfers started wanting something that felt real and exciting, but the land itself played a big role in the game. This new way of thinking began with a special course called Sand Hills. This course opened in 1995, way out in the Nebraska Sandhills, which is a super remote and hard to get to spot. This was one of the first courses that showed that you could build a great course by working with the natural landscape instead of changing it too much. This idea set the stage for a whole new way of designing golf courses that still influences the game today. The designers, Bill Coore and Ben Crenshaw, wanted to do something totally different from what most people were used to seeing. Instead of moving tons of dirt and making everything look perfect and shiny, he decided to work with the land just as it was. Some people even said they moved earth by the spoonful, which means they only made tiny changes to the natural dunes that were already there. What they created was a golf course that felt like it had always belonged in those rolling hills. The holes fit the land so well, and everything looked natural and relaxed, not forced or fake. This approach was named minimalism, and it was all about letting nature lead the way. Sand Hills quickly became super famous and is now ranked as the 8th best golf course in America. But even more important than its ranking, Sand Hills changed how other course designers thought about their work. After people saw how amazing this course was, they wanted to try this new style too, and that's how a whole new wave of natural-looking golf courses got started. After Sand Hills showed everyone what was possible, a bunch of new golf courses started popping up with this same natural, wild look. Instead of picking easy-to-reach spots, developers started choosing land that was special, even if it was far away or hard to build on. They believed that if the golf course was cool and exciting enough, people would travel just to play there. And they were right, because next up is the golf club at Cuscowilla in Georgia. This course is right on the shoreline of Lake Oconee, and it opened for preview play in 1997. It was the very first course Bill Coore and Ben Crenshaw worked on after they finished Sand Hills, so you could say it's like a little brother to that famous Nebraska course. But Cuscowilla had a big challenge. Instead of soft, sandy ground, land here was tough clay. That made it much harder to shape the course in a natural way. But Coore and Crenshaw brought over the ideas they used at Sand Hills, like wide fairways, foam ground, and bunkers that look wild and natural. The bunkers at Cuscowilla are especially cool because they're made with deep, red sand and have rough, torn-looking edges. These were built by a guy named Jeff Bradley, and they really stand out compared to the neat, tidy bunkers you'd see at other nearby courses, like the ones designed by Jack Nicklaus or Tom Fazio. Cuscowilla proved that you don't need perfect land or fancy tricks to make a golf course feel natural and fun. If you work with what you have and let the land shine, you can create something special anywhere. These new courses felt like adventures, and golfers loved the idea of exploring new places that didn't look like every other golf course. Before, most courses tried to copy the perfectly trimmed look of places like Augusta National. After this, more and more courses started to look wild, natural, and one of a kind, like the Victoria National in Indiana. This course is a great example of turning something ugly into something beautiful. It was built on an old strip mine, which means the land was full of deep holes, piles of dirt, and rough ravines. Most people would look at a place like that and think, no way you could build a golf course here. But designer Tom Fazio saw an opportunity. Fazio and his team took this rough, broken land and turned it into a golf course that feels like a wild prairie preserve. The holes twist and turn around lakes and through the old mining cuts, making the course both beautiful and really tough to play. In fact, Victoria National is known as one of the hardest courses in America, with lots of water and tricky shots. But what's really amazing is how the course blends into the land, using native grasses and the natural shapes of the old mine. Even though it took a lot of work by people and machines, the end result looks like it belongs there. This championship golf course was once a flat military airfield, UP. Victoria embraced the land's rough past, but Whistling Straits had to invent one, and now it's one of those golf courses that really makes you stop and stare. When you first see it, you might think it's a wild, windswept links course straight out of Ireland, with giant dunes and rough grass right next to Lake Michigan, but it actually started with a totally flat, old Army air base. The designer, Pick Dye, had a huge job ahead of him. Instead of working with natural hills, he had to create them from scratch. Pick Dye and his team used tons of dirt and heavy machines to build up the land, shaping it into rolling dunes, steep cliffs, and more than 1,000 bunkers. Yes, over 1,000. Even that was all made by people. The course looks like it was carved by the wind and mortar over hundreds of years. The fairways go up and down, and you get these amazing views of Lake Michigan from so many holes. It's a really tough course, and it's hosted big tournaments like the PGA Championship and the Ryder Cup. While Pete Guy sculptured Whistling Straits from a flat airfield into a dramatic link star course, Bay Harbor, perched along Lake Michigan, like Whistling Straits, wasn't a blank slate at all. This course is actually made up of different sections, but most famous are the links and Quarry 9s. It was covered in piles of leftover rocks and dirt from an old mining operation, so much that in some places it was dozens of feet deep. Most people would have given up, but architect Arthur Hills created one of the most beautiful and unique golf courses in the Midwest. Quarry 9 especially is full of twists and turns, with holes that go up and down through old mining pits. And then you have the Links 9, which sits up high and gives you breathtaking views over the water. Bay Harbor is about making the best out of a tough situation. Since 2003, Bay Harbor has been ranked as one of America's 100 greatest public courses. After 1998, golf course design kept moving forward with even more creativity and bold ideas. The naturalism movement that began with courses like Sandhills, Whistling Straits, and Augusta National inspired architects all over the world to try new things and take bigger risks with their designs. One of the biggest changes was that designers started picking land for its wild edges of cliffs, in old mines, or on windy coastlines far from big towns. For example, places like Bandom Dunes in Oregon, which opened in 1999, took the idea of naturalism to a whole new level. The course was built right on the rugged Pacific coast, with holes that run along the cliffs and through the sand dunes. Looks and feels like a classic Scottish links course, but it's right here in America. Bandon Dunes showed everyone that golfers would travel far and wide for a truly special experience, even if it meant flying across the country and driving for hours. Another cool thing that happened was the rise of destination golf. Instead of just playing at the nearest course, people started planning trips around visiting these new, exciting places. Golf became a journey egg. Courses like Barnbougle Dunes in Australia and Cabot Links in Canada followed this trend, building on wild, beautiful land and attracting golfers from all over the world. The world of golf design became a lot more interesting, and that's why, even today, the ideas that started back then are still shaping the way we play and experience golf all over the world. History is full of bold golf course designs, but few are as bold as the Trump golf empire. Want to know how politics, power, and design collide? Watch our next video and subscribe for more.